The hum of the capital's highways is accompanied today by a quieter anxiety. At gas stations across Moscow, the digital numbers climb higher by the day, leaving motorists frowning at pumps and calculating just how much fuel they can afford. The sudden surge in prices is no coincidence. Behind it lies a campaign of Ukrainian drone strikes targeting Russian oil refineries, strikes that have shaken one of the most important pillars of the Russian economy and hit directly at the wallets of ordinary citizens. Across the city, filling the tank is no longer a routine part of daily life. It has become a calculation, an act of budgeting and restraint. For some, it means cutting back on driving altogether. For others, it is about buying just enough gasoline to get through the week. And for retirees like Oleg, who live on modest pensions, adaptation is the only option. Everything is getting more expensive all over the world. You have to get used to it. That's life, Oleg explains with a tired shrug. We're already used to it, especially retirees. We save, we stock up, we spend everything in moderation. We try to put, say, 10 litres of gasoline instead of 15, just enough so that we can go somewhere. I don't drive much. Of course, it has an impact, but we're holding on, we're managing. Oleg's testimony captures the resilience of many Russians who have learned to survive under rising prices and shrinking choices. Yet his words also underscore the quiet cost of war. Even those far from the front lines are now being asked to adjust their lives around a conflict that has crept into their daily routines. For Ukraine, the choice to strike oil refineries is strategic. These facilities are not only central to fueling Russia's vast military operations, but also a crucial source of revenue and stability for the state. Every explosion sends ripples beyond the battlefield, disrupting logistics, limiting supply and shaking confidence in the Kremlin's ability to shield its population from the consequences of war. But among Russia's economists, there is skepticism. Many argue that the government is using the strikes as a convenient excuse for deeper structural problems. Artyom, an economist, does not mince his words. If they had wanted to, they would have protected them, he says bluntly. Referring to the refineries, we have the means to protect them. This is just an official pretext to bring people to a point where they can sell us gasoline at a higher price. For some reason, everything always increases for us, but nothing ever decreases. It would be great if they showed even a little that they are doing something better for the population. His remarks highlight a frustration many Russians feel. It is not just the war, nor the strikes themselves, but the perception that their leaders are always ready to pass the burden downward while rarely offering relief. Prices climb, promises are made, but for the average citizen, life simply gets more difficult. The shortages are real. In several Russian regions, motorists have faced long lines, empty pumps and rationing. Social media fills with images of barrels being filled, of drivers stockpiling fuel just in case supplies run dry. Yet here in Moscow, the picture is different. The capital remains relatively well supplied, at least for now. The Kremlin insists that the panic is exaggerated, that there is no nationwide crisis, and that Russia's energy sector is too vast to be shaken by the loss of just a handful of refineries. Entrepreneurs like Alexandra echo that message, seeking to reassure their fellow citizens. On a national scale, people need to understand how many oil refineries we have, he says. Even if 1, 2, or 3 of them are affected, it will have no impact on overall demand and pricing policy. These are attempts to distort reality. But Alexandra's confidence stands in sharp contrast to the lived experiences of ordinary Russians. For truck drivers, fuel distributors, and families planning long journeys, the rising cost of gasoline is no illusion. Every ruble spent at the pump means less for food, medicine, or other essentials. The Kremlin may deny disruption, but for those counting every litre, reassurance is hard to swallow. In many ways, the gasoline crisis has become a test of endurance. On one side is the Kremlin's narrative of strength, abundance, and resilience. On the other are the daily struggles of citizens who find themselves rationing, improvising, and adjusting. Between them lies a widening gap of trust. Ukrainian strikes have succeeded in more than just damaging infrastructure. They have pierced the psychological armor of a population long told that the war was distant, confined to the battlefields of Donbass or Zaporizhzhia. Now, with every visit to the gas station, the conflict feels closer, more personal. For retirees like Oleg, adaptation means cutting back and hoping prices stabilize. For analysts like Artyom, the crisis is a reminder of mismanagement and exploitation. For entrepreneurs like Alexandra, it is an opportunity to project calm and confidence, Together, their voices paint a portrait of a nation unsettled, unsure whether its leadership can balance wartime demands with domestic stability. The image of cars flowing smoothly along Moscow's highways suggests normality, but it is a fragile normality. Beneath the surface lies a tension that cannot be ignored. The fear that shortages in the regions today could become shortages in the capital tomorrow. This is more than just an economic story, it is a political one. Every ruble at the pump is a reminder of a war that has dragged on far longer than many expected. Every cut in consumption is a quiet act of endurance, and every denial from the Kremlin is weighed against the lived reality of millions of Russians. Ukraine's drones may damage steel and concrete, but their true impact is measured in uncertainty, anxiety, and the slow erosion of confidence. In Moscow, the pumps still flow, the highways are still busy, and the Kremlin still insists the nation is strong. But in the shadow of war, every drop of fuel carries a price that is economic, political, and deeply personal. Everything is getting more expensive all over the world. You have to get used to it. That's life. We're already used to it, especially retirees. We save, we stock up, we spend everything in moderation. We try to put, say, 10 litres of gasoline instead of 15 so that we have enough to go somewhere. I don't drive much. Of course, the rising prices has an impact, but we're holding on, we're managing. If they had wanted to, they would have protected them, editor's note, oil refineries against drone attacks. We have the means to protect them. This is just an official pretext to get people to a point where they can sell us gas at a higher price. For some reason, everything always goes up for us, but nothing ever goes down. It would be great if they showed even a little that they were doing something better for the population. On a national scale, people need to understand how many oil refineries we have. Even if 1, 2, or 3 of them are affected, it will have no impact on aggregate demand and pricing policy. These are attempts to distort reality.